when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are in our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are in our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, better. There comes a time when everything just falls in line. Oh, better. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith.
Hi, welcome to ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm ReneMarie, and this is going to be a great show. Most of you know that I really have a passion to not only bring information about strokes and support those that had strokes and share with people how not to have a stroke, which 80% of strokes can be prevented if you live a healthy lifestyle. And the other 20% is, you know, if you get to the hospital within a 4.5-hour window, which I believe Dr. Bekulis had stated that it expanded that time zone, but it really isn't something that we want you to do. When people know the signs of fast, be fast, as a matter of fact, now that is, that you get to the hospital as soon as possible. And we are saving lives across the world. So we're so happy with this show and the information that it brings to everybody. But when you suffer a stroke, some people suffer aphasia more severely than others. And that really is a passion of mine to bring to the forefront about aphasia. Aphasia is the communication that people suffer from, the communication skills, and that comes into them being able to speak and them being able to understand. And there's a whole world about aphasia that I'm still learning about, and I've experienced when I had my stroke. I remember not being able to read or understand "the boy ran," and that just sticks in my brain like glue, because if I can't understand or read that simple sentence, it really is a challenge. And I had a young man come to my house one time, and he was putting in my cable, and he said he suffered 2 strokes. He went to the hospital, and they really thought that he was on drugs because he was young, and that is not the case. So we really want to bring to the forefront of the news about aphasia as in tied into a brain injury or stroke. So it really is important. I'm going to introduce my guest and my co-host, of course. But before I do that, I want Jim to put on the screen. We really wanted to partner with a lot of vendors, and our dear friend Andrea, who had a bunch of jewelry, really offered to partner with us and sell her jewelry, and a portion of the proceeds goes to ReneMarie's Language of Love Foundation. So it really is a gift. So Jim, we created a website, put up one of the slides so that everybody could see it. Is it up, Jim? I can't see it. Okay, Great. So this is, oh, I can see it there. We created a website. It's www.ReneMarieLanguageOfLoveBoutiques.org. And you can go to that to see some of the jewelry that we're going to be launching the sale for. There's no prices or anything yet. That's the next piece that we're going to add to it. But I really wanted to post it. And there's beautiful necklaces. There's beautiful bracelets. There's beautiful earrings, which everybody knows I love earrings. And beautiful, what else? Necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and I don't know, there's 4 things anyway. So it really is wonderful, and I'm so appreciative of her. And we're going to launch a show really online for you to buy it. So we're very, very excited. Show the other photo, Jim. These are photos of they're from Israel. All the imported jewelry is from Israel, and these are pieces that she was selling. A brand that a designer that she was selling prior, but it really is a wonderful thing. And I love that ring. It's beautiful. It's a nice pearl ring. So we can't wait. We can't wait to start that process. And if there's any other vendors that love to partner with us and bring the gift of giving as well as the gift of helping others, we really would appreciate you contacting us at ReneMarie Language of Love at gmail.com. And I would love to partner with you and sell your items and partner with you. So we're so excited. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for showing those. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
So back to the show. Hello, Judy. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I was too excited. I had to share about the designer with the partnering with Andrea on the jewelry. You saw some of the jewelry live, right?
Yes, I really loved it.
It's beautiful. So anyway, so thank you for joining us today. Thank you for always doing your intense work with the ReneMarie Stroke of Luck TV show. Judy is the one that found Craig Beale, one of our guests today. You're a speech, I can't even think right now.
Pathologist.
Speech pathologist. My printer wouldn't print this morning, so that's fine. So I'm winging it. I'm winging it, as we say. But thank you so much for joining us, Craig. Judy was so excited when she called me like on an odd time, because she said, oh my God, I gotta tell you, like, I found this pathologist and he is wonderful. And he is just, I'm so excited to introduce you to him. So we're so excited that you took the Sunday morning, because Sundays are usually family day, you know, with most people. So thank you for joining us today, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Having me, appreciate it.
Yes. So we'll get to you in 2 seconds, but I want to also reintroduce Dennis. Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Thank you, Nalha. Thank you. Thank you.
Dennis suffered a stroke, a major stroke. How long ago, Dennis?
5 years. 5 years.
5 years. 5 years ago.
And one time was only is 3. The first time I was I was dead because it was getting 3 days was coma.
Oh, you were in a coma.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So we'll get to your story in a little bit, Dennis, but I really wanted to thank you for your work that you're doing to bring awareness to aphasia. Not only to strokes, but to my passion, aphasia, because it really is, and we're going to talk to Craig about this. Craig, what do you want to be referred to? Mr. Beale or Craig, or what's that?
Craig is fine.
Okay, I just don't want to disrespect.
No.
So we're going to talk to Craig about, you know, the actual, what is aphasia, and how people can understand it better. And then we'll get to your story a little bit to show them how proud we are, and how appreciative we are of you going on live on the screen, because I remember back when I suffered my stroke and I suffered from aphasia, you're almost afraid to you're afraid to have a conversation with somebody because you can't communicate with them, and it gets combobulated, and that's a fear, and most people retreat back and they don't want to do anything, and you're just taking it and you're running with it, and we really appreciate your work that you're doing. So Craig, tell us a little bit tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you work? How long have you been in the field? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, currently I work at Stony Brook Medicine. I've been there since 2013. I graduated from Hofstra with my master's back in 2011. And for all of my career, I've always worked with adults. Now, speech-language pathologist who works with adults often works in the area of swallowing disorders, and I do that mostly. But also when you work with adults, you work with patients who have strokes and brain injuries and other neurological conditions. And aphasia is one of the areas that I am very passionate about. I think the most important thing to know about aphasia is what it isn't. It is not a cognitive impairment. It is not an intelligence impairment. It's not a personality change. It's none of that. It's just a strict language issue. So I like to think of aphasia as waking up one morning and you're in Beijing, China, and you don't speak Chinese. It would be very difficult to navigate a brand new city, not being able to speak or understand Chinese. That is what aphasia is, except it affects your first language, and in where we are, mostly English. So it affects the way you interact with your environment. It affects the way you interact with people in your life. And that's why it can come off as a cognitive problem. And, some patients with aphasia feel, and they tell me that they feel less intelligent than they did before the stroke. And that is not the case. It's just the interaction they're having that's changed. Now, because aphasia can be a long-term problem, it can start to have patients withdraw from social situations and things like that. And that can lead to some cognitive changes because, again, if you kind of go into yourself, then there's higher risks of, dementias and things like that. But it's not a problem unto itself just from the stroke. So it is important to know that, aphasia is not completely reversible. Depends how long the stroke was lasting and what kind of stroke it was and things like that. But the earlier you get help, usually the better you'll wind up doing. Now, the brain has an amazing way of reorganizing.
Yeah.
Even if somebody who didn't do any therapy, they'll get better. And you'll see some very significant, improvements from a stroke for the first 3 to 6 months, really amazing improvements. And the brain is continually healing. I always say that as long as there is life, there is hope. Right. So you're always going to improve. However, after 3 years or 4 years, it's much more smaller changes, smaller improvements, so they're less noticeable. The person that has the impairment will notice it probably. But the important thing to know is that the patients who get therapy early do better also, because the brain doesn't necessarily want to change. It takes a lot of energy and it's difficult to change the brain. However, if you push the brain in the right direction during this natural healing process, tend to have better outcomes.
So my question to you is, and this is what we're going to bring Dennis into the conversation, is because you just said, the faster you get help, the better the outcome could be, because like we know that all strokes and aphasia, each person is so different. It's really a unique case how do we initially help someone that is suffered a stroke or suffered a brain injury and is suffering from aphasia? How do we initially help that person?
Well, the most important thing to do, like you said, Renee, is be fast. So you have to recognize the stroke is happening, because think about time as brain. Unfortunately, there isn't a way to protect brain cells from lack of oxygen. A lot of great, scientists and doctors are looking into that. They've yet to be successful. So the only way to save brain cells during a stroke is to get medical help. That's number one. So there are some amazing interventions now, and they could restore blood flow to the brain in a large part relatively quickly, if the person gets the help they need. So that's the first thing.
Yes.
After that, once the person is medically stable in the hospital, therapies start to begin. Now, after a stroke, and Dennis can probably speak to this, there's a fatigue and tiredness, things like that. That's a big factor, and the brain needs time to heal on its own too. You need plenty of rest. So we wouldn't do intense therapy, at the bedside, for the first few days. But as soon as the patient's medically stable, starts to go to rehab, or goes home, with some rehabilitation services, that is when a patient will benefit from more intense therapy. So if somebody, would qualify for an acute rehab, stay after a stroke, they would probably get about an hour of speech therapy per day. Sometimes more. Sometimes more.
Wow.
And
So
that can go months.
Yeah. So Dennis, we like we had spoken last time. Speak to Craig's how he's sharing the initial stroke effect of aphasia, because like we spoke prior, I said, you have to really give yourself the space and the time to love yourself through it. That's my thing. So how did you feel initially when you had that stroke and you had the aphasia? Did you understand what was going on?
Yeah, because that was the word. That was, but I knew it was, but I couldn't do it. I can't do it. But why I can't do it? So it turned. So it's been 3 months, a little. But people started very, very, very little, and then people they would go okay, the girl was, my wife was there, and my son was with him too, and she's always like, okay, Dennis, please, slow, if you could do it now, if you could do. So I started doing it, just getting it, doing so much more of it than them. And then the next time started with more and more and more. It was doing so much more. It's been so much more. It's been so much of it. It's been great.
Right. So where did you get the drive from? Because as we spoke, and Craig even confirmed, it really takes the person, right, Craig, that it takes the person to not back away, right? Not back away.
That's the very worst thing to do, is to back away from society. Like the brain doesn't necessarily want to change because it takes a lot of energy to do that. But because human beings are social creatures, if you stay social, that is the best therapy you could do. So even if somebody didn't have speech therapy, if they stay involved with their friend group, their family group, having dinners, things like that, just the act of trying to communicate during those events, because it's a social situation, that can be sometimes the best therapy.
Right. Because you're doing it unknowing. You're not trying so much. You're just kind of like communicating, but it's not like you're going to class. You don't have to learn. You're just learning through hanging around with your family and friends.
I always tell my patients that, when they come to see me for speech therapy for aphasia, I am not teaching them anything. I'm not teaching them anything they don't know. What I'm trying to do is unlock the things that are in their brain that they don't have access to anymore. And, you know, that can be done in a group kind of setting too. You know, a therapist can figure out what areas are preserved with language and then what areas needs work. And, you know, that's our job and that's what we're good at. But there's a point when you have to practice the skills in real life. And that is the best thing.
Yeah. So Dennis, so where did the drive come from? Were you always driven, or, and because I literally remember, like, I could put myself back in that place. And what drove you to stay out? And because we want to learn this so that we could share it with people that are recently, you know, having strokes, so that we could not only, and this is something, Craig, we're going to talk about, not only share it with person that had a stroke, because that's the wrong person to share it with. You need to share it with the family and friends around that person, so that they could kind of know how to navigate and know how to help their loved ones recover. Because I remember back when I had my stroke, I was in a fog. My brain was combobulated, I call it. Like I needed help to defragment my brain, just like a computer, you know, to set everything back into the places it was. So Dennis, so oh shoot. I'm just saying, oh shoot, because I forgot to record this program. I'm gonna record it now. So it's on Facebook so I can get it, but my recording. So anyway, so where did you get your drive from, Craig?
Yeah.
Dennis.
No, it's good. It's good. Because I know I was a chef there, and you know, I was coming getting here, getting stupid and everything. I don't understand it now. Now I'm not. Now I'm looking for. Well, I'm trying to do a little bit better. It's been so much great here. It's been so much great here. Because I know I'm trying, I'm going to do it a little bit more,
Where did that drive come from, Dennis, though? Where did it inspire from? Because, you know, you're different. You're different than those that you're unique in your stroke world. And that's what we want to tap into. We want to understand it to help those that have strokes.
You had a lot of drive.
Yeah. Where did you come from?
Because, but every time I'm going to meet, I'm gonna meet them here for me. I don't care. Anybody loves me. Everybody okay. Everybody loves me. You know, and so, and I know how my wife and my son is good, and everybody, my son is good, and everything, and it's good. I love them. But here is when do people get to know about me? When do they get me? And everybody, I gotta say you, because Jim now going to the gym, right?
A workout gym.
Right. Gym. But
we see you on Facebook all the time. Like, I love you because you're so out in public to show people that this is what you got to do. This is where you got to fight. This is how you have to do it. It's not so easy. You can't sit back. Nobody can do it for you.
You thank you very much. I love the way you talk to that, because that's the truth. It's what it is, and I love it out there. I love people there and everybody, the calling and everything. There's so much. Why? Because, you know, before, no more. It's always been so much good there. And even when I talked to him, the guy, you know, I know when I'm done there, and guys talk to me and everything, everybody just loves me for it. They go, come here, you know. So it's like, you know, I'm going out. I'm going out today, buddy. It's gonna be tomorrow, and then he'll does it, and then he'll just ask me, and then and then I just go to say I go like, sorry.
Right.
But here, you know, I know how people, like my wife, she always thinks that goes too. My wife always thinks my wife is too good. You know, like she was, so what do you do? No, it's going to be good. Stop. You got to be school there because that will be me. That will be by me. You know, I don't care if I don't get any there. People will always do understand it. Sorry. If you can, sorry. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do what we shared. Just reset. Just give yourself the time to
Dennis.
just reset, because that's what I love about you. Another thing, Dennis, because you're getting confused, it doesn't stop you from trying, and that's a big thing, right? That's a big thing that it doesn't stop your motivation. But we also have to learn that we have to love ourselves. And I'll never forget Dominic Cordelesa saying to me, it's okay. It's okay. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk about it. So he was allowing me to learn to reset, because sometimes we need to reset. And the truth is, whether you suffer from a stroke, or you're tired, or you suffer from aphasia, we all sometimes need to reset in our lives and take a look at things. We all make mistakes. We have to reset. It's what you do with what's happening that makes a difference, right?
I don't think Dennis needs to say, I'm sorry. I think that when you feel that the words haven't come out the way you want them to, stop, pause, and then talk slowly again. I don't feel that you need to apologize. I think you've come a long way, and I really think you're facing your challenges, and you should, if you say something that you know isn't coming out right, stop, pause, take a deep breath, continue, but very slowly.
Yeah.
Instead of saying that.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Craig, about people apologizing for what Craig and Judy is talking about?
I think Judy's right on the money there. I think that you're changing the flow of the conversation by apologizing. And I also think that, trying to plow through where you're having a lot of trouble can actually, almost like a snowball, and you have more and more and more trouble. That if you do pause and you stop for a second, reformulate, and then start over again, I think is a great strategy. And I think that's very intuitive, Judy.
And people understand that you have aphasia and that you do have trouble talking. So when you take the pause, they should understand that's why you're doing it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But how do we, go ahead, Craig.
When I was in graduate school, one of the rotations I did was with a group, that had aphasia. And I remember there was one lady who had, very, very severe aphasia, and she kept in her wallet a card, and she would share with the clerk at Macy's and such. And it said, "I have aphasia. I understand everything you're saying, but I need extra time to speak."
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
I think that was just a wonderful way to advocate for herself, really set the tone. And then people did give her more time, to communicate, and it let her, be out in society, and then she really had a beautifully rich life.
Wow.
Did she make up the card herself, or did she just write it on a card?
I don't know if she made it herself or her family member, or sometimes, a speech pathologist working with a patient will do that. Sometimes even a neurologist might, because again, it's important that, if a person that has aphasia or dysarthria, which is, slurring of speech, things like that, they have to, be aware that they have that problem in case they get pulled over.
Yes.
Because a police officer might think that they're intoxicated.
Right.
But a card from the neurologist saying, I have this condition, it can save a lot of trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Because we've seen on the news where people are having heart attacks, and they're driving uncontrollably, and they're having a medical condition, not they're drinking. And some police officers weren't in tune with that. So to have something, that's why, I know I have a very dear friend, Pat Talaferro, who was my softball coach, she has diabetes. She's a diabetic, and she wears a bracelet to let people know that she has this issue. So she becomes, because she's gotten lost sometimes, you know, when she goes into that spacey world. And I don't know exactly what that's called, but then, you know, when they see her and they find her, they know that she has this condition. So.
Those medical bracelets, I mean, some of them are really beautiful now. They you know, they're a really nice piece of jewelry.
Right.
And you don't feel like you're a hospital patient, you know, wearing that. So they've come a long way. That's a wonderful thing that, you know, patients who have aphasia and other conditions like that really should, you know, have.
Oh, but he's got one. Dennis has one.
There you go.
That's awesome, Dennis. And where did you get that?
Oh, I had it when I got it 4 years. 4 years was it got it. So same day, it's been beautiful. Thank you.
Where did you get it from?
It was here. It was my wife did it.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been for everything. Everything. No, I got the first time. It's been so much great.
I'm just writing this down because I think this is something that we should make available to people that suffered strokes or aphasia. So
Great idea.
So that they could, I mean, you know, I know that speech pathologists hand them out as well, Craig said, but I also want to make it available so that we're supporting the system. We're supporting those that suffered from strokes or aphasia. That's really important, really important. I mean, that's such a great gift. And it's probably, would it be better to have it as a bracelet than a card? Because that way, you know, I guess police officers or somebody would look for, are they geared to look for that? Is that one of their training tools where they look for any medical notifications on somebody, Craig?
Sure. A police officer would. I think the cards are handy though to communicate with you know, people outside of law enforcement or you know, medicine, like the clerks and things like that. Because even in the hospital, let's say, there's so much information that a patient or a family member gets bombarded with. And although they probably came across the word aphasia at some point from somebody mentioning it, most of the patients I meet in the outpatient, they don't necessarily know what the name of the condition is. They don't know it is called aphasia.
I know.
So, and those are people that are living with it every day.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who doesn't have that experience that works in the community maybe needs more of an explanation of what aphasia is, that I can understand you, I can, you know, get my thoughts out in words, but it takes me more time. And I think, you know, not just saying I have aphasia, but, you know, explaining it is very, very important to self-advocate.
Right. That's so incredible. That's really incredible. So let's talk about the support system that is needed to recover. Because I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have the love and support around me constantly. And I know we spoke before of you know, going out in society and back into the world, but sometimes, you know, people are can't really go by themselves, you know, because their stroke or their brain injury is traumatic. It's a little bit more than the normal. And even those that, like Dennis, can go out, you know, by themselves now. How do you feel the family support and the friend support and the doctor support, of course, you know, plays a part in it, Craig?
Well, family support is probably key. I think when I meet a person that, you know, comes in for an evaluation with aphasia, one of my prognosticators is how much family support they have. And the person who has more, I expect to do better with therapy. Now, I know also, you know, with stroke, not every time it just affects, you know, the speech. It can affect the motor function too, arms and legs. And that can be really debilitating to get out of the house, like you just said, Renee. So that can be a real challenge there. So it's wonderful that we have the technology now today. There are wonderful online, support groups and message boards, things like that.
Right.
Even doing those kind of things can be quite helpful. It's very important, if somebody is getting speech therapy in an outpatient type setting or at the home setting, that family members participate in that therapy. Maybe even just watch it, for a few sessions and then start to participate is very important, because again, sometimes, family members may not give the patient enough credit, and not challenge them enough, or sometimes it may be too challenging.
Right.
So the speech pathologist can really help, figure out the best communication strategies between the family members, so there's less frustration between the two people.
Yeah.
And then the caregiver or the husband or wife, family member, can practice with the patient, the loved one, what they saw in therapy.
Exactly. They can
so that you get more time, you get extended time. You are teaching the patient, Greg, and then the caregiver watching will be able to carry that through the rest of the day.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a big part of it. The important thing to remember is that with aphasia, it's always a moving target, because the brain is always improving. So what may have been something that we were focusing a lot on a month ago, we might not be addressing, or maybe addressing it in another way. So always having the family involved is very, very, very important. And also figuring out what's helpful and what's less helpful. And those are things that a speech pathologist will discuss with a family member. Yeah. So having multiple family members involved is really, really, really important. And that is a blessing when we can come across family that are involved in that capacity.
Yeah. So, look at Dennis. Craig, Dennis is sharing with you like how he used to speak. Dennis, what is something that you would want to share with those that are suffering from aphasia right now? No, I don't want to say suffering, because I don't like to put things in a negative vein.
It's a challenge.
The challenge with aphasia. What would you say to them? Because we want to lift them up. We want to help them to know that there is hope.
Yeah, because it's so much. I love it. I love it here. Like people who try, they get down. They get down a little bit. No, you gotta stay. Come on, let's go. You'll be all right. You're all right. You got it. I know you got it here. And people understand it when they come in, because I know how it works to me. Like before, I think it's. I hate to say this, but no, I like it. But I'd say it's like, because I like it because it's amazing. Great. No. God here. I know it's gonna, maybe I get it sad here. No more. I love you, Dad. God, all right, we're gonna do it here again. We're gonna do it again here. We're gonna do it here. And then people all of a sudden know that it does go. It does go for there, because I see, I know everybody sees this for me, because they will. They people do me. Sorry. When people always think about me, when they think of me, I say people who are so much good it is. People who always really does it. They try to. And then, but when people who's doing this, do this, aren't sad. It's sad for them. They want to cry. And so, no, you're going to please, you're going to be too much. Because I know how much they are. I know they are. They have to do a little bit. There's something for him. Sorry. Okay. I know that. Sorry. If he feels for it now, it'll be great. It'll just be all. Sorry. And he just has to just try, but please, try again, please, and do it a little best.
You're
Do you
doing
understand?
great. You're doing great. Try again.
Yeah, and I love the way he feels. I mean, he feels.
And you know, I'm thinking to myself that aphasia, in a way, is like stuttering. When somebody is stuttering, all they really have to do is take more pauses, and then their speech is clearer. Is that right, Craig?
I mean, sometimes there are what we call neurogenic stuttering that comes from stroke as well. It's it's not a developmental stuttering, and that can be helpful. Again, aphasia, what it is that the word doesn't come out. It's not that the speech doesn't come out. That's what apraxia of speech is.
I see.
And that can be addressed in different ways. And that's also a very frustrating condition for patients. But sometimes with aphasia, what's also helpful is trying to describe the word in another way, to use a different vocabulary word or come at it from a different angle, or even sometimes using a gesture. Sometimes using your hand to describe the word can trigger the brain and then get the word out. But it could also help, your communication partner know what you're trying to get at as well,
Right. People used to believe, and I disagreed with it a long time ago, is that sometimes people that suffer a stroke and suffer from aphasia can't understand what is being said to them. And from my experience, there have been times, especially when I got tired, I couldn't comprehend what was being said to me. I couldn't grab it. I couldn't understand that. I couldn't listen to it. That wasn't the time. And that's why a confidant of mine, Dominic Cordelessa, would say to me, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. And he supported me through it to get me to have the tool belt to know how to eventually grab it, and it really, and I will tell you, it probably was mostly because I was tired and I just couldn't take anymore. My brain couldn't take anymore. So tell us a little bit about that, what you think on that, Craig.
Well, like you said, Renee, is that I always think of the brain as an electrical system. So if we have a house that's run on 200 amps, everything works perfectly. When you have a stroke, it may have knocked that down to 180 amps, which, you can still run a house at 180 amps very easily.
Right.
But when you're tired or stressed or anything like that, you're plugging in the air conditioner and the dehumidifier in the same outlet, you may blow a circuit.
Right.
It's temporary, and then, you could reset the circuit and you could go back to it. So when you always have to use extra juice because of aphasia, and then you're taxing your system by being stressed or tired or things like that, that can negatively affect the way you're communicating.
Wow.
Aphasia is there's underpinning for it, because for most right-handed people, the language hemisphere of the brain is the left side. So there's different regions of the brain that are responsible for different things. There's a region that's responsible for getting your ideas into words. There's a region that's responsible for repeating words. There's also an area that's a little bit more back in the brain, posterior to the brain, where you're actually interpreting the speech signal from other people, different region altogether. And then there's also a region that affects, how you read and write. So if a stroke happens, to the region of the brain where you're just getting your ideas into words, that what we would consider a non-fluent aphasia. The person understands everything, but they just cannot get their ideas into words.
Right.
That's common, but more so, we'd see more of a mixed aphasia, where you're going to have little bits of the brain that are preserved in both regions, both understanding and expression, but there's also some deficits in both areas as well. And some things that a regular conversation might be understood, but things that are more complex might not be understood. Again, it's not because the person's any less intelligent. It's
Right.
because the words are not being interpreted correctly from their listener.
Wow.
So I tell the family members, try to talk about things in context. So if you're talking about current events, talk about current events with the newspaper in front of you. because then you can have pictures. If reading is preserved, you could have the patient read about it and then discuss it and fill in all the gaps. Because again, one of the important things to do with speech therapy is to capitalize on the strengths. Everybody has strengths. Is it your reading and writing that's strong? Well, let's use that to fill in the gaps. Or are you a very creative and visual person? Then let's use the right hemisphere, which is, maybe have not been affected at all from the stroke, and let's draw pictures or think visually. And that can help fill in gaps that, from damage from the left hemisphere.
Yeah, that is so right on target, because Dennis has a PowerPoint that we're going to be showing on a support group that we run. And I've learned, especially with strokes and aphasia, when I'm talking about it, when there's things specifically about the strokes or aphasia, the medical part that I don't know. And I'm not a doctor, and I'm never going to know, and I'm never going to learn it. I know my gift. I could tell my story. I could speak from my heart. I could speak about things that happened to me, but the medical part, I don't know. So when I do my keynote speaking, I have a PowerPoint so that I have something to refer to, and Dennis, we're so proud of you because you created a PowerPoint. You put your stuff down so that you could share, so you have something to follow. So your brain has something to follow. And I think that a lot has to do with the security and the support, right, Craig? Where it's like, I don't have to worry about it. Like, I'm putting it on a PowerPoint. And I have it there. So it's almost like you can release your fears now, because you don't have that fear, because you'll have something to follow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why having a backup way to communicate can be quite helpful too. So again, if somebody has reading and writing preserved after the stroke, but they have aphasia, keeping a whiteboard handy, or if they are able to type on a cell phone, for text message, those kind of things can be really quite helpful. Having a backup system, even if you don't use the backup system, knowing that it's there can take some of the stress and a burden off.
Yeah. Dennis, we're so proud of you. So give us one. Do you have the PowerPoint in front of you, Dennis?
Yes, I do.
Give us one of the PowerPoint slides that you can't show it today, but talk about what we're going to show on the support group show.
Okay.
One. And then in a few minutes, I really want to get to, and we only have 10 minutes left, but I really want to get to Annie Goldfind that Craig was telling us about, because that was very interesting. So did you find it, Dennis?
Yeah. I go to speech 3 times a week.
Oh, you go to speech therapy 3 times a week?
Yeah, so I know, so it did real good, right there, it's good. It just
right. That's awesome.
So yeah, so it makes it sort of do it so much, but I still can't do it here this way. I try and do that, but when I try, it gets bad a little bit. I can't do it yet. But we'll try, but.
Dennis, does Denise go with you?
Excuse me?
Does Denise go with you?
Oh, yeah.
So what is it that you're trying to do, Dennis? To show the PowerPoint online, or what are you trying to do?
Because I did it for this person here, because I did it here for me, college. I did it around. Oh my God, you did me like probably like 25 people have here, and I got it here. I know that I just go to get it. It's been beautiful each time.
So you're talking about when you go and you talk to somebody, or you present to an online or in person to a support group, that you feel better all the time.
Yeah, thank you. So it's just been cute. Everything is called about it. It's just about it's just like I like to talk about aphasia. Right. But here it's just so much good here. Because I still got a lot of darning. I still have to do a little bit to get it, but a little bit. Yeah, very exciting.
But what we in life, in life for anybody, and Craig and Judy can confirm this, in life for anybody, you have to dive in and you have to go. Whether you have it perfect or not, I don't believe it should be. I'll give you a prime example. For our ReneMarie Language of Love boutiques, it's not fully up and running, but I wasn't going to stop showing it because it's not ready. I wanted to get the voice out. I wanted everybody to see it. So you can go online, see it, view it. It may not be perfect, but it'll become perfect. Things don't have to be perfect. I'll never forget, was it Steve Harrison? Steve Harrison is Jack Canfield's producer, and I took Jack Canfield's class because I love Jack Canfield. And I'm also a life coach, so I love that world. And he said, if you don't dive in and you don't write that book, if it's got to be perfect, you're never going to get it done. There's been people in his life that have talked about books and it was going to be perfect and it was going to be wonderful. Never wrote because they didn't take the jump. They didn't take the leap. And eventually, and he said, like, you can always edit it. You can always put out publish number 2, publish number 3, publish number 4. So we're so proud of you, Dennis, because you're in there, you're making changes, you're learning, you're really trying to make a difference. And you are a perfect, a prime example of what it takes to recover. Am I correct, Craig?
Absolutely. Not only is it helping him communicate and, be out in the community and helping other people, but it's also helping his brain heal. Yeah. Because it's continually healing. And by doing all these very demanding tasks that he's doing, it's helping his recovery. So it's helping himself as well.
Yep, yep. So let's talk about Andy Goldfein. You said that he has a new, he's working with the pharmaceuticals.
I used to work with a neurologist, Dr. Goldfein. And one of the interesting things that he was looking at was that if somebody has great family support and, they're doing well, in their recovery medically, and they're not depressed, not a clinical depression, but they're just not feeling hopeful about their recovery. Is there something that's going on? And he was looking at something called post-stroke apathy, which is when you feel a sense of hopelessness. And that can actually hinder sometimes recovery because, again, you may not put 100% into your therapies or maybe even not even want to go to therapy. And again, we all have days when we feel discouraged, and that's a normal human condition. And it's okay to feel sad sometimes because sometimes things are sad.
Right.
But if it's a thing that's going on and it's for a long time and it's holding you back, sometimes talking to your doctors about the way you're feeling, there might be some help for it,
Yeah. And we hope to have him. Judy's going to try to reach out to him. We'd love to have you back on the show, Craig, with Andy Goldfein. It's Dr. Andy Goldfein. And Dennis, you're more than welcome to join us on that show as well, because I really want to keep the conversation going, because that's what brings voice out, so that people can get to learn about aphasia and about what it takes to recover from aphasia. And there's so many different parts to it, and I had a softball coach, Barbara Stewart, that, thanked me for, she said she was behind a car and it said, I have aphasia. And she never knew what aphasia was, because strokes was never on the forefront of the news, I guess, because it really is affiliated with your grandparents having a stroke. And most people think that it's part of the process, to have, when the older you get, you have something. But strokes doesn't only happen to old people, to your grandparents. It happened to me at 26 years old. It happened to Dennis. How old were you, Dennis?
I'm sorry?
How old were you?
I was 5 years.
How old were you when you had the stroke?
How old were you? How old are you now?
45. You
were 45 when you had the stroke?
Now 50,
oh.
50.
Okay, so 45. Yeah, Dennis suffered a stroke. And so, Craig, do you see many, what's the ratio that you find in strokes? And I actually, before you answer that, I just want to share that I actually was part of a study, which I have to investigate, I don't remember, but I was a part of a study that for young people that's suffering strokes in New York City, because they wanted to determine why I had the stroke. Because right before my stroke, my vitals were perfect, and right after, I was perfect. So, you know, I just had this split second where I had a stroke. What's the population, do you know, of people that are having strokes? I know majority is grandparents, but what's the...
It depends on the types of strokes too, because there's two different types of strokes. There's the hemorrhagic stroke where a blood vessel bursts in the brain, like an aneurysm. And then there's the embolic stroke where a blood clot, you know, affects the blood flow to the brain. So there's all different reasons why people would have strokes. And, you know, when you talk about the more common strokes, the embolism type stroke, you know, there are certain lifestyle factors that put people at risk of that, you know, high cholesterol and diabetes and things like that. So again, those kind of conditions we think of as later life conditions, although that's not necessarily the case anymore. You know, you see young people that have type 2 diabetes, and you see you know, young people that are in their 30s have high cholesterol. So you'll see younger people that have these embolisms now. But stroke can happen in utero. Strokes happen to you know, babies in the mother's womb.
Yeah.
So, you know, that it's not terribly common, but it's not terribly unusual either. And those you know, so a baby can be born after suffering a stroke, and you'll see sometimes those babies will have cerebral palsy and things like that. But again, you could have a stroke at 100 years old as well. So from before you're born to 100 years old, anybody can have a stroke.
And it doesn't discriminate.
No, it doesn't discriminate. You know, very brilliant people have stroke, and people who are less brilliant have strokes. It really doesn't, that doesn't discriminate against anybody. So that's something to try to, you know, limit, you know, how much unhealthy foods you have and things like that can reduce the risk. If there's a family history of stroke, you know, you definitely want to make sure that your doctors are aware of that, because, you know, sometimes there's conditions that can be addressed before a stroke ever happens. So, you know, having a good primary care doctor that you can, you know, trust and communicate with is very important.
Yeah, we always try to share with people to have that tool belt around you before something major happens, to have, you know, to research, have a good family doctor. You know, at least if you have a good family doctor, they could help you in navigate who could be a good neurologist and who could be, you know, a recommended, you know. And the other part of it is that once you know, I believe that you should research them prior, because you have to have a good relationship with them. They have to understand you. You have to have a connection to them. You know, some really good doctors are just very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to disrespect any doctors, but, you know, they're just there to do their job. And there's other doctors who really take the time to listen and are more invested in how you're feeling and how you're emotional. So, you know, you got to understand what type of person you are and what type of person what type of doctor you need. And that really is important. It has to do with accountants and insurance and your faith. And, you know, you need that tool belt around you to really make it and to really survive in life, you know. We really think that's important.
It sounds trite, but it is true that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You know, if you could stop a stroke from happening, much better. But if you can also make the stroke less severe, you know, by getting help that you need, that's gonna, you know, ultimately help you in the long run. So it's very, very important.
Yes. Well, this was really an important show. It really was. And we're so grateful to you, Craig, for taking the time from your beautiful family office that I love. It's with all the books, and it's beautiful. And Dennis, thank you so much for taking the time as well. And we're gonna schedule the support group so we can show your PowerPoint so that we can let you do your thing online.
Thank you.
Yes, so we love it. And Judy, of course, you're always, you're the backbone to this show.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. Craig, could you give your contact information? Because there was a few Facebook followers that asked for your contact information. Could you please give your, how they can reach you if they have any questions or they need a pathologist, a speech pathologist?
Well, if you're looking for a speech pathologist and you're living on Long Island, we have the Long Island Speech-Language Hearing Association, LISHA, and that will help connect you with different therapists who are listed, what kind of conditions that they treat. But also your referral source would be your neurologist or your family medicine doctor. And they'll have a good list of, speech pathologists that help take care of their patients as well. But yes, I work at Stony Brook Medicine. So if you look at, Craig Beale, Stony Brook Medicine, that's my information's all there with my department and such.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You really were a blessing today. Thank you, Dennis. And our next show is in a few minutes, and it has Nate, the Mime Speaks. He is on our board of committees right now, and he really has a very wonderful, interesting story that is, it really, and today's topic was listed as listen, because I really think that you need to listen to understand and to really get through life. And you need to listen to those that suffer from aphasia. And you also need to listen to Craig about what aphasia is. In our next show, and this is so funny, Judy just ties them together so well without even knowing, but the next show is the Mime Speaks. So you need to listen, or you need to watch a mime so much, but today he's gonna speak. So we can't wait to welcome him. So we always blow our kisses. I don't know if everybody is interested in doing it, but on 3, we blow kisses. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Craig.
Bye, God bless you all.
Bye-bye.
No me puedes